All right, we're live. Say hello.
And good afternoon, everybody. We're glad we're here.
Oh, I almost knocked over the chair. Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. This is the first Closer Club we ever do in front of a live audience.
Good.
So it's number 78. For those of you guys that are watching, this is the legendary coach, real estate coach and trainer, Mr. Mike Ferry, who is probably the most well-known real estate trainer, not only in the country, in the entire world.
Thank you.
Mike, let me do my introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Alex Vidal. I am president of Related ISG International Realty. Good job, guys. And I am host of the show, The Closer Club, episode number 78. And again, we're here with Mr. Mike Ferry. We have 10 minutes. We've been in I think we're going on 3-4 hours of training with Mike, and I got about 8 questions, and we're going to take some questions from the live audience. 10-15 minutes, you ready?
And let me tell you, this is a live audience.
This is a very live audience.
I spoke to it. I said you guys were the best audience I ever had. You guys, and no, really, I mean it. You guys are terrific, and I hope that you guys keep with that wonderful attitude you have. It's a real refreshing thing for Alex and I to see such a high response. So thank you for that.
That's right. It's the Cuban coffee, Mike.
It's a Cuban coffee.
You know what? I like that. Keep applauding as we go. Well, we're going to add a different mix of this. Mike, so you've been coaching since the 70s.
Yes.
Right? We're in 2019, so you got a good 50 years under your belt.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your path from California to becoming one of the top trainers in the country.
Well, it was probably more by mistake than on purpose.
Okay.
I worked for Earl Nightingale, the name that most of you know and have been around over the years. And Earl, one day in the office in Chicago, just said to me, "You need to go out and share your message."
Okay.
And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, you know, I speak every day," which Earl did, to the public. And he said, "You're more enthusiastic, you're young, you're excited. Go do something so you can share your message." So I chose to go into real estate.
Okay.
And one of my closest friends, my broker, Pat McVeigh, said, "Come on in." He trained me. I did everything he said. And I became one of the top agents in California with the purpose of then becoming a speaker trainer, which in those days there was no coaching, but it was speaking and training. And then what I did as a speaker, I used the same principles I used to list and sell homes. I prospected every day. I was aggressive in lead follow-up. I pre-qualified all the boards of realtors and companies. I made as good a presentation as I could to get them to hire me, and as a result, 45 years later, I get to sit with you, which is exciting.
How did you make that transition from sales to coaching? What was it like that matchstick for you?
That happened in October 1988, San Francisco, California, Fairmont Hotel on Nob Hill. Wonderful setting, 400 people, not like your group.
Okay.
These people had not been alive for years. Okay, and I have
no Cuban coffee.
Oh, no Cuban coffee. I mean, they were just flat as a pancake. At the end of the first day, I said to them, "Do you think what I do could help you?" And they nod their heads. I said, "Well, good. I got an idea. I'm going to ask every one of you to write me a check for $5,000. And if you give me a check for $5,000, I'll call you once a week, and I'm going to kick you in the kneecap. I'm going to slap you in the head. I'm going to tell you what to do, and we'll do that for a year." And then I walked off the stage. Well, it was a joke. I wasn't serious.
Okay.
The next morning, 8 o'clock, I walk in. There's 300 business cards on the table. I said, "What are they?" They said, "We want to give you a check for $5,000.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of money.
For $150,000, this mouth works. Okay.
Yeah.
We started the coaching that day, and It just developed from there. It was really more by mistake than on purpose. But Alan Dalton, who I'm sure you know, said something very kind to me several years ago. He said, "You gave birth to an industry called real estate coaching," and I'm very proud that I was the first to do it. But what I'm really proud of is all the great students that have taken advantage of it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks to you, there are many quality realtors in our business.
Yes.
Mike, one of the questions I've been wanting to ask you the most since we were able to put this together is, I'm a fan of knowing what worked in 1980s and the 70s that's still working today. Okay. And what have you changed from 80 to today?
I got older. And the truth is, you know, there's basic fundamentals in life that never change. You go to the gym, you work out. As long as you continue that, it doesn't matter what your age is, you'll be in better shape and live longer. There's just fundamentals in life that are non-negotiable if you want to succeed. And I learned this from Earl Nightingale, from Napoleon Hill, from some of those great thinkers for a long time, because I studied under all those people. Yeah. And what I found out was that if you talk to people and you're excited about what you do for a living, they're going to respond in a positive manner. That hasn't changed, whether it be 1970 or 2019. If you're really good at presenting what you have to sell, they respond in a positive manner. That hasn't changed. What we're looking for, unfortunately, Alex, and I know that you understand this better than most, because I got to watch you today work this audience, they're not going to find a magic formula that's going to change their life. They'll find a magic formula that will give them temporary satisfaction for a minute or so. But the basic fundamentals of selling, whether it be IBM, a big commercial company, or American Airlines trying to sell seats, you have to talk to people, you have to know what to say, you have to make sure you're excited about it, or they work with somebody else. So I would like to say to them, there's a magic formula.
So how many agents would you say you've trained throughout the years?
I'm told over 2.5 million.
Okay.
In my seminars.
And I'm sure there's a few that stick out to you, right? That you can go back.
Yeah, many.
What would you say, if you were to break it down, what would you say are the top 3 common denominators among those that stick out of the 2.5 million?
High degree of something they want, motivation. High degree of personal discipline, okay? And not being afraid to walk out of their comfort zone.
Got it.
Because when you get outside your comfort zone, you're in an area that is new and different. But that's what makes life so great. And when you said that, I think of people like a Debbie Nagel, first agent that I ever met in 1982, selling 300 homes a year in Kansas City, Kansas, okay? I think of Walter Sanford, one of the guys I trained who became a speaker and still is today.
That's right.
250 transactions a year in the 70s, okay, that we coached and trained. We didn't coach, we trained at that time. Every one of them, high discipline, high motivation, and not afraid to step out of that comfort zone. You demonstrated it today. You get out of your comfort zone very quickly, and I really admire that.
Really?
Oh, I watched
I was comfortable the whole time. I love this stuff.
Yeah, but and I know you love it, but when you're doing it to your own people, it's a different arena than when you're doing it to a public audience.
That is true. That is true. So let me ask you, what's interesting about that, and one of the things I try to share with our agents all the time is I personally don't think these top agents are any different than everybody else.
I agree.
Right? Would you agree with that, or would you say they're no different, they're just putting in the work?
Well, if we take a group of 500 agents or 5,000, you and I, who are pretty good, cannot select who's going to be the best.
Correct.
It's what they do that makes them the best. Our job is to just lead you to becoming better than you are. So I really said I've been a very poor choice at trying to select somebody that's supposed to be good. And every time I've tried it, I've probably been wrong.
So would I be accurate in saying the difference is in the doing?
Oh, 100%. What I didn't say today, because I didn't feel it was necessary, mindset, skills, activities, action. The 4 words that run a great professional realtor's life. The mindset, which you
Number
really,
one.
that's on top of your list. Then the skills to support the mindset. Then the activities that bring the results, but then taking action every day.
There you go. Simple as that. Isn't it amazing?
Yeah.
It hasn't changed 40-something years.
I'm not smart enough to make it complicated.
Well, we don't need to.
No.
I think people make it complicated to give themselves an excuse as to why they're not doing it, right?
Yeah.
Now, in Dade and Broward County, you were talking about the numbers, and I forgot what city it was, but
Cape Coral.
Cape Coral. Yeah, Dade and Broward, I think there's 65,000 realtors in Dade and Broward County. So what would you say are the top realtors or top ways for a realtor to establish and, more importantly, communicate the value that they can provide to their customer?
Well, first, you have to create what we would refer to today is a value proposition. We used to say, what are the benefits of listing with my company? Today, we are sophisticated. It's a value proposition. What value do you provide that probably everybody else can provide, because the basic values are all the same? But then it's how do you present that in a manner that is intriguing to that prospect or client? So the real truth is, the answer is take listings, because very few people understand that process. So if you take listings, you're going to stand out. Because see, you and I know that when that young man lists a home for sale and the neighbors drive out of their driveway, the conversations are like this: honey, did you see that house up there on the street for sale? I wonder what they're selling for. I wonder if they know that ours is probably nicer than theirs. I wonder what we could get. So our taking a listing creates multiple conversations in the community.
Okay.
And if we create multiple conversations and we don't follow up on them, somebody else gets more listings. John Lumlow, a great trainer from the 70s, used to say all the time, every time a listing is taken, within 7 days, another listing will pop up in the same neighborhood. And if you really watch, it's really true. So it's a matter of defining what you do and being able to tell that story.
You know, it's funny you say that. I live in a community called Mystique, and sure enough, it was the guy 2 doors down from me listed. Now, I'm not actively selling because I run the brokerage, so I can't farm my neighborhood. And then boom, right across the street, it happened again. And we have those, they listed for what? But we have impact windows, we have a pergola, we have a bigger yard, we have a pool. You're right, those are the conversations that, and I just bought my house 2 years ago. I have no intentions of selling.
Sure.
But even my own wife and I have those conversations.
It's called human nature.
Yeah, 100%. And you leverage human nature is what we do. So we talked about it in our class, listing agents or lasting agents. So do you believe that to still, and I already know the answer to this, but the people watching weren't in our 3-hour session. So do you believe that listing agents, listing agents or lasting agents, do you believe that to still be true today? And what are ways that agents could get their listing game going strong?
Well, listings is a confidence game. And if you take this expression, which I've used for years, knowledge equals confidence, ignorance equals fear. And if you drive by a for sale by owner and you see the sign and you accelerate, it means you're experiencing fear. You don't have the confidence to hit the brakes and walk up to the door. So everything goes back to that ability to know what to say. Because I did not say to your group today, and I apologize, I will normally say, when you know what to say, you can do what you're supposed to do. And if you don't know what to say, it's very hard to do what you're supposed to do. And you know what you're supposed to do. Right. But if you don't support knowing what to say, and that's never going to change. You have to perfect your performance in front of a seller. And that's really what it's all about.
It's so funny. This is episode 78. Last week I had the Wolf of Wall Street. Granted, he didn't do the greatest things on the planet, but arguably one of the best salespeople ever, right? Ryan Searhant, one of the top realtors in the country.
One of the best.
And they say that you can't sell if you don't have confidence. Mm-hmm. And the way you gain confidence is by having that product knowledge.
That's right.
And that confidence of what you, in your knowledge of what you're trying to tell them. So you talked about Bill Belichick.
Yes.
And I think about Michael Jordan. I think about LeBron James, Shaquille O'Neal, Tom Brady,
Tiger Woods.
They all had coaches, but yet they were the best in the world at what they did. Talk to us about why realtors should have a coach. And this is no plug, because I really do firmly believe that anybody, like if I want to get ripped, which I did, I hired a nutritionist.
Sure.
I needed better business, skills. I hired one of the top entrepreneurs in the country. When I have emotional crap, I go to my psychologist, right?
Sure.
We seek out professionals. Why do you think, tell us about why realtors should have a coach in their business?
Well, first I would say to you, many should not. Because unless you have the desire to change and improve, coaching isn't going to help. I will say very openly, publicly, that 50% of our clients show no improvement after a year and they disappear. 50% keep improving, which is why they stay with us for 10, 20, 30 years. So there's a certain group that shouldn't have a coach. If the desire to improve, the desire to produce, the desire to change your behavior is in play in your mind, then you have to look for the support. Like you said, you hire a nutritionist, you hire a trainer, you hire people to support what you're trying to do. A pro football team will have 11 to 15 coaches for 55 players.
That's right.
So every group, the offensive line, the defensive line, the ends, the quarterbacks, the running backs, defensive back, each one has a coach for that little group of people. If you think that there's people that are better than you and you discover they're being coached, you might want to follow that path.
That's right.
And that's really what I believe.
John Assaraf, who I had on the show, I'm going to air it next week. He talked about that. He goes, the easiest part is the how-to.
Yes.
Because the information is there. All you have to do is look for it. All right, lightning round. Okay. Because I do want to take some questions from the audience. So guys, start thinking about some of the questions that you have. One word, short answers. Best ROI for leads.
Best
ROI for leads.
Database.
If you only had one way to prospect, what would it be?
One what?
One way to prospect.
I would do the database again.
Database again. One daily practice every agent should be doing to change their business for the better.
Practice their scripts.
What's the most consistent thing you do?
I'm always enthusiastic in front of an audience. By far. It's my biggest strength.
Something we'd be surprised to know about you.
Probably everything that you knew about me, which I don't tell many people anything about me, because that's not what my job is. My job is to help you find out about you. So probably the fact that I won't ever share anything is probably what would probably surprise most people.
Got it. And you shared a lot today.
Well, thank you.
Shared a lot.
Yeah.
What's your favorite realtor in the country doing right now? Business-wise. They may be having lunch.
I'll say, depends on what part of the country. what they are doing is any place as an individual, 250 to 300 closed units, an assistant, 2 assistants, maybe 1.5 showing agents. Very small, tight team, high profitability.
Got it.
Then on the team basis, I take a Bernie Gallerini, Josh Barker, John Ames, Karen Bernardi that are doing 300, 400, 500 transactions, but a real high profit margin. Because we coach teams that if you're not going to have a pre-tax net of at least 50%, don't have a team.
Sure.
So we're very strict about how we help agents get to those high levels. So they are masters of their time.
Got it.
That's the biggest difference.
Love it. Last question, we'll turn it up, and I end every interview with this question. A book, podcast, or TED Talk recommendation for the audience?
Well, I've read the book Think and Grow Rich probably 100 times in my life, and I recommend it every day.
Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I was given a copy from Earl Nightingale. My wife was very kind a couple of years ago to give me a first edition signed copy by Napoleon Hill of Think and Grow Rich, of prize, okay? I don't know if she spent 15 or 20 grand on it, but it was the best money she could spend to make my life better,
sure.
Which makes her life better, which makes our kids' life better, which makes our life better.
That's right.
So I tell everybody, if you read that book 100 times, then read it once more.
You know, what's the thing I find most interesting about you on a personal level, and I want to give you kudos, is a lot of people in your position or top producers or whatever, they have egos. And everything they do is about them.
Yeah.
And you have referenced so many other people that you've learned from. You're not saying this is mine. No, I'm sharing it with you because I happen to know it, but I learned it from this person. And I really admire about that.
Thank you.
It shows a lot about who you are as a human being.
I'm the conduit.
That's
my job.
That's what I say all the time. Okay, so we're done with my questions. Let's open it up. Who's got questions? Gerald, come on up. Come on.
Great, thanks.
You may or may not come out on camera, but go ahead.
Thanks. Mike, do you find that there is a high correlation between sacrifice and success? I'm sure you do. Can you tell us of an agent that comes to mind that made a big sacrifice and how their success is today?
Well, I don't think there's any agent that produces at a high level that hasn't had a lot of sacrifice. One of the challenges for top producing people is maintaining some type of balance in their life. You have a personal life, you have a family life, you have a physical life, you have a mental life, you have a spiritual life, you have a business life, and balancing that out is the sacrifice that you make. And it's a hard sacrifice because when you get good at one, you many times will not pay attention to the rest. So I'm a great believer that the balance that you have in what you do keeps you sane and productive. So there is no one thing, there's the balance of all things. And Earl Nightingale used to say it all the time. The key to success is balance. When you can stand on one leg in a hammock and then juggle 6 eggs and not break one, you're balanced.
Huh.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting because let's take social media and all the celebrity entrepreneurs that are out there.
Yeah.
They don't talk about balance.
No.
They say balance is bullshit.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, we go after everything big. There is no balance. We just go after everything full speed. All right. Other questions?
And there's a sacrifice with that.
You're right. There is a sacrifice. Howard, go ahead. We'll start asking and then we'll.
Sure. So you mentioned Think and Grow Rich, but who do you contact personally for inspiration?
Who do I
contact personally for inspiration?
So here, let's just so I can repeat it for the mic. Who do you go for advice?
I'm very lucky. I had 3 mentors in my personal and business life. Earl Nightingale first, Dr. Gunther Kloss second, and then a guy named Michael Vance who worked with Walt Disney for 25 years third. And these 3 men really shaped my thinking, they shaped my business, they shaped my attitudes and my approach. And I studied under them, and I virtually was with them right up to the time they passed on, because all 3 have passed on. All 3 of them said, Mike, you have to learn to read. And I met Earl Nightingale at age 20, so I was very young. And I said, how much do I have to read? And he said, 250, 300 books a year. I wasn't reading any. You know, I was reading Life magazine thinking it was a big deal, okay? So I went on a mission of reading, and I've read probably close to 200 books a year for 50 years. So my mentor is the library.
Wow,
okay.
That's a great answer. I like that.
Thank you.
All right, questions? Anybody else? All right,
yes.
I think, go ahead, Eduardo.
There's one more.
How do you see the role of technology changing what we do as agents?
Great question. So let me just repeat it for the audience.
Yes.
How do you see the role of technology changing? How do you see technology changing our role as an agent?
Well,
Great question.
let's see, it's 1:30 here on the East Coast. It's changed since we started at 10.
Yeah.
So what you have to understand about technology is it's evolving. It's not evolved. Okay, it's never stops evolving. So if you really look at technology, you say, what are its basic uses to me? So watch, retrieval of information, storage of information, learning things you may not know anything about very quickly. Now, then you can say, okay, can I use technology as a real estate professional? Well, in those three areas, it's a big deal. Because where we used to have file cabinets for our files, I have an iPad that I can store zillions of gigabytes, megabytes, you byte, my byte, all in one place. Okay? So I think that technology is something that's going to keep evolving. The question is the use of it for you and your business. Now, is it a lead generation tool? It could be. Is it a negative and a positive? Maybe. So what is the purpose that you have with the technology? And if you define the purpose, there'll be a technology there for you to meet that. But I have found often when people become experts at technology, they forget the sales process.
Ooh, I love it. Last question, Ralph.
My question is simple. You gave me a very good impression about what real estate was in 1968 to 2019. And the impression you gave me is it has not changed.
Correct.
What we did in 1968, we still do today. Where do you see it 20 years from today?
So where do you see the real estate business if it hasn't changed from 68 to 2019, where do you see it 20 years from today?
I would hope that we have 50% less people in real estate.
Yes. Amen. Amen.
Because I've been trying for years and I've suggested in AR, create standards that an agent has to do X number of transactions a year to maintain their license. And if they can't meet it, they lose their license. You know, in essence, we know that last year, 50% of the agents didn't do a deal in the nation. That's what, 700,000 agents didn't do a deal. That's the published report. So I see in 20 years more agents doing less deals and a few agents doing more deals. I think the gap between the haves and have-nots is widening to the point now where it's almost scary, because a small group of these people that people like you and I coach and train and work with are doing more and more, and the masses are doing less and less. We used to have three classes: new, experienced, and superstars. Now we have superstars and the rest. So that's going to probably get worse. And then I think second to that is the use of technology. It's going to keep advancing our lives forward at a real rapid pace. I mean, you know, my wife Sabrina's son is very involved at a real high level in technology worldwide. Okay, I mean, we're talking about way up in that top 1/4, 1%.
Okay.
He said we haven't seen anything yet.
You know, it's interesting, and we'll end it on this. And you talked about follow-up.
Yes.
And so I asked some of those top agents that I know who pay for leads.
Yes.
Out of every 10 leads you get, how many of them, so let's take Miami for example, how many of them are moving to Miami or moving out of mom and dad's house?
Yes.
Versus somebody living in a rental or have bought a home and are doing their second or third or fourth real estate transaction locally. 80 to 90% of them have done a real estate transaction locally, but yet they became somebody else's lead.
Yes.
And you want to tell me you don't have the time to follow up? Your customer is going to become someone else's lead.
Well, you know, I'm a great advocate of anything we can do to generate more leads, but I'm a great non-advocate of buying them.
That's right.
Okay?
And if you do your job, your customers won't become someone else's lead.
See, if you're doing your job, you don't need to put your leads or your listings on Zillow. But if you're not doing your job, Zillow is a great place for your listings because all the calls that you should be getting go someplace else. So now you're actually supplying your competition with the buyers.
There you go.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, but welcome to our life.
Mike, thank you.
No, thank you.
So very, very much. I'm going to go around and turn the camera off. Any parting words before we...
Hey, go have a great finish. We have 2 months left in this decade to do something good. Go do it.
There you go.